Okay, so we finish with the central lobe. We puddle in our grooves, make sure our cusp tip is in the right place. Then we start with the lingual. This is the mesiolingual cusp right here, and that includes the mesial marginal ridge. So we're going to bring this cusp a little bit higher than the first premolar. Let's make it a little rounder so it's not so pointy. So now the distal cusp will meet the mesial cusp, and it's going to form the lingual developmental groove. Now we got to remember that we make our marginal ridges about the same height as the adjacent tooth. So this is our distal lingual cusp. Just like that. It's almost similar to the upper first molar. Kind of almost looks like a mini oblique ridge, which we'll learn about it in the future, not too distant future. Okay, so that's our general shape for the second premolar. So now we're gonna fill in the lingual surface. So we're gonna have our mesial lobe right here. I'm saying lobes because you can tell that these are different lobes now. Here you can almost not tell because the groove on the lingual is almost non-existent. But here you can definitely tell that there are two cusps. So if there are two cusps, there's also two lobes. They are kind of smooth, however, so so now we make the distal lobe. It's kind of the base for the distal lingual cusp. So once the lobes come together, they will form like a slight groove there. You don't want to let the groove come all the way down to the gingival because they kind of fuse together toward the bottom. So you want to leave a little bit of it, almost like a residual groove. See, it's right there. That might even be a little bit too extreme. So let's take a little bit more off. Just like that. Just a little bit. So here I inadvertently made a triangular ridge there. So I'm going to take it out anyway, just so I can show you how to put it in. Oops. I took the cusp off. Let's try to fuse it back. Let's fuse it back from the buckle too, otherwise it's gonna fall off. Okay, let's get this out again. This time I'm going to soften it up a little bit and then kind of scoop it out with a much lighter pressure. This will give us a nice clean fish mouth, so we can place our anatomical structures without any hindrance. Okay, so here we go. We have a nice size fish mouth. Now, as usual, first thing, buckle triangular ridge, teardrop shape. Kind of start on the bottom and bring it on up. Okay. So now we're going to put secondary ridge right here. Secondary ridge right there. Then we move on to the lingual triangular ridge, which is, again, it's a tiny bit underdeveloped. I did notice that I put the buckle ridge a little bit too close to the lingual, so I'm going to take off a little bit and bring it more to the buckle. So we have a little more space for that ridge right there. We do the distal ridge, distal lingual there. Try to not let it run together if you can. That way it'll save you a little bit of time. So now it's time for puddling. So let's puddle this baby in right here, and this, and this, and that. Here we have a little too much space there on the distal lingual, so I'm going to add a tiny bit more wax. This way we can puddle in a little bit more. So just very quickly, just like that. Just like that. You don't want to keep that instrument there too long, because then it's going to make everything run together. kind of gives you like a depression. So now we're going to do the grooves the same way, just a little bit in the central groove, and then bring it up a little bit here, a little bit on the mesial, a little bit on the distal, and then the lingual developmental groove we're gonna break through and make like an embrasure space right here. Okay, so now let's add a little bit more on the lingual side, because it looks like it's a little bit concave, and all these surfaces need to be convex. So now we're pretty much done with the occlusion, so I'm gonna pop this out. Look at all that wax we have, oh boy. Ooh, look at that. So what I'm gonna do first this time is I'm gonna carve all this extra wax down, because I know that the wax down here is exactly where the model is. So we cannot build up more than that, because if we do, guess what's gonna happen? The teeth are gonna start popping out again, and that's like the worst thing on this model. So we just keep carving, and please be gentle so you don't break the wax off. So just keep carving away and shaping away. Remember, don't have the curvatures too extreme, because if it's over contoured it's not good, if it's under contoured it's not good. So it has to be just right and exactly to the margins, and everything needs to be rounded. Make sure you make your embrasures. As long as everything's rounded, you're gonna have good embrasures. So now, whatever we have left over are negatives, so we're gonna need to fill these in. And since we took it down from before, we have more of an idea how much we can build. As we keep waxing these teeth, we're going to come up with new techniques. Some people may feel comfortable with mine, some people may not. So as long as you get the same result, you can use any technique you wish, but it's gotta be good. See, now I have rounded everything down, so the tooth is starting to look pretty much like it should. Wider at the occlusal, narrower at the gingival. See right here, It's a little bit over the margin, so we gotta take that down. We gotta take it down lengthwise, and we gotta take it down into proximally also. So wherever we see that there's like an angle, we gotta kind of round everything down. And just leave your developmental depressions there. You don't want to flatten those out too much, because they kind of make the teeth look nice. So there we go. It's kind of popping out a little bit. So I think I'm going to skinny it down a little bit right here at the mesiolingual. Maybe even go in a little bit with an instrument and flatten it by the margin. Since the margins are so far down under the gum might be putting pressure on it. Okay, that's a little better. I could do a little bit more fullness. Here I think I took away a little too much. You see the space? We're gonna just add a little right there. Remember, we need to get that curvature just right. So it should line up with the curvature of the gum. So carefully remove a little bit because I put a little extra. Alright, so now I can tell that we got a little problem with the contacts, so we're gonna need to add. Let's take a little more off of here since there's a ledge there. We just leave the curvature alone. And now we're going to add the contacts. So we're going to quickly add to the mesial and the distal. I'm going to try to put it back in before everything cools down. Looks like on the mesial it's gonna give me a hard time. I mean, it's there, you can tell. The contact's right there. Okay, that's better. A little extra here, take it off, and add a little bit more. Sometimes if you put it in too quickly before it solidifies, you may smear some of it away, so it's got to be just right so it doesn't smear, but it can deform a little bit. Just like that. So now we have a contact. So that will give us our lower left second premolar. There's a little bit of a concavity here. You see right there. We're gonna add and then finish up. Get it from the top. Now it's better. So you see, cusp tip a little larger here, a little smaller in the distal. Then we have the lingual developmental groove. So that's the second premolar on the lower. Tooth number 20.